There we go. All right. Since I think this is everybody, right? Taylor Redding may join us in a minute. Okay. So you obviously have a warm-up question like normal, but don't go there just yet. Because it's Monday, we should do a review to make sure that you guys are all fresh. Because the warm-up question is a predictive question. I want to know if you can predict what peace looked like after World War I. So we just finished World War I. We talked about why it started, how it started, and because this is a U.S. history class, we focused on the U.S.'s involvement in it, which was pretty minor, considering that the war was 4 years and the U.S. was only in the war for a little over a year. So, somebody want to tell me, why did World War I start? What event kicked off World War I? Zawadi.
The assassination of Ferdinand.
That's right. The assassination of Franz Ferdinand. And why did an assassination spark an entire war that involved the amount of countries that it did, that eventually became World War I?
It was someone's, like a political leader's son.
Not son.
Nephew.
Nephew. But explain, keep going though. Explain why that would kind of, the ripple effect would be this like great war.
Didn't they didn't it like make a big thing because they assumed someone else did it, even though it wasn't them?
Right. So remember, there were already groups and allied groups within Europe, right? So you had countries that were allied with other countries. And Austria-Hungary was an empire, and it was trying to clobber up nations around it. And the Serbians wanted their own independence. And so a lot of times and remember, this is not a world history class, but the reason the war started was because the Serbs didn't want to be under the Austria-Hungary Empire. And you get these like rebel groups, and they went in with their violent attempt and assassinated Franz Ferdinand. Well, Austria-Hungary were like, hey, we know the Serbian government's responsible for this. So they, instead of dealing with the rebel group, they went in and invaded Austria-Hungary. Austria-Hungary invaded Serbia. Well, and then that causes a ripple effect because whoever's allied with these countries then has to feel like they have to come to the aid of the other nation. But what catapulted the U.S. into the war? The U.S. is on the other side of the ocean. Why do they care what's going on in Europe?
They were attacked by Germany.
Sort of, right. So, do you guys remember the name of the ship that sank? Anybody at home remember the name of the ship that sank? So the U-boat sank. The U-boat sank this particular British passenger ship. Do you remember the name of this ship?
Was it a submarine?
So, the submarine sank this passenger ship. So the German submarines were attacking. Remember, they considered the Atlantic Ocean kind of a war zone. So even if people were just using passenger ships to get to and from Europe, the Germans saw that as the enemy. So they sank a boat called the Lusitania. Do you remember that? And they killed like 128 Americans. And kind of what was brewing in the United States was that there needed to be a response to that. Otherwise, Germany was going to continue to be an aggressor. And Germany also had sent this secret letter to Mexico, kind of telling Mexico, hey, if you join our war effort, we'll give you all the land that the United States stole from you, right, in the Mexican-American War. Where's Mexico, right? And it's a border country, right, which would put the United States in a pretty vulnerable place. So that was called the Zimmerman Notes. So the United States is like, okay, now we got to actually respond to what's going on. And so the U.S. enters the war, and because we laid the foundation for the United States kind of becoming, right, they're building into a world power, they enter the war and pretty much end it because of the military, the ability of the military. So at the time that they enter the war, the Central Powers and the Allied powers are pretty balanced. It doesn't seem like there's going to be a clear winner until the United States enters in. Did you have a question?
I was just saying, wasn't it like a year and three or a couple months?
Yeah, it wasn't very long. And then Germany surrenders to the Allied powers, pretty much ending the war. Today, the focus is going to be on, you don't just end a war, right?
Yeah.
There's a desire for peace moving forward. So what does it look like for the winner and the loser? What are the terms of peace? We're going to be talking about Wilson's 14 points and then the Treaty of Versailles. And then we're actually going to read the 14 points, which are President Wilson's terms of peace for the world. Because once you've entered into a war of this magnitude, you really want to avoid it again.
Yeah.
Now,
Which
you
they
guys
did.
know history well enough. Are they able to do that?
No.
No. So we're going to talk about and evaluate the 14 points and maybe some of its weaknesses in keeping peace and why the terms of peace are probably not going to be considered by the losers, right? Who considers the terms of peace?
The winner.
The winners, right? Which
Wait, when
doesn't
they-
make the
wait.
losers very happy, I'm
When
sure.
did they meet up again to declare that the war's over?
They meet in a train car. Remember we talked about that? They meet in the train car in Paris. Like all the major world leaders, right?
That's like hilarious.
I know. It almost seems like comical,
Yeah.
but it's the way that they did it. I mean, eventually the leaders have to come together and decide when war is going to end. All right, so that takes us to your warm-up question, which is predict the responses by the winner and the loser of the Great War. Remember, who are the winners?
The
The Allied powers, and then the loser is the Central Powers, right? Why do you think, and this is also another predictive question, we're going to talk about this more today, why do you think it was so important for President Wilson to find a peace plan that would last forever? We already know it doesn't last forever. So for you guys that are at home, do you see the warm-up question on Google Classroom?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Give you like 5 minutes. I'm gonna shut this. There it is, yep. this is like a two-part question, right? You're talking about, why do you think, I'm sorry, you're predicting the responses of the winner and the loser, and then you're talking about, why do you think Wilson would want permanent peace? All right, about like a couple more minutes. Get your thoughts down, and then if anyone's brave enough to share your thoughts, I'll call on a volunteer. Or I might just call on you, I don't know.